What's happening, rugby fans? I hope that you are doing well. Welcome to Rugga United, the show where you and I get to talk about the big rugby stories that you might have seen throughout the week, and we get to dissect them on the show. As always, I'm not alone. I'm joined by a man who absolutely loves his rugby, one of the best sporting journalists in the country. His name is Khotso Sello. Khotso, my brother, how are you doing?
I'm good. We've been deprived, a week? Now we're back to business.
A week is too long.
It's too long.
A week is too long.
It's too long.
And also, what's nice about this week is that the Springboks are back in action. They'll be taking on the Wallabies in Australia. There's so much for us to talk about regarding that game. But I want to start here. And we spoke about the big stories on the timeline. We know what's going on with Siya Kolisi. We saw what Rassie Erasmus has said, right? There are rumors that apparently that contract at Racing 92, will come to an end, right? Maybe SA Rugby will buy out the contract. Siya Kolisi might be back at the Sharks. Your thoughts when you saw the headlines, and especially, Rassie Erasmus speaking at the press conference about Siya coming back to South Africa?
Last week, there was a lot of speculation. Some were saying he's going to the Bulls. Rupert and Matsomela might take him to Pretoria.
Hey, but he would look good in blue, I think. Huh? What do you think?
I'm not sure.
And I visit Loftus regularly. I think he'll look good in blue. I'm just saying.
I think he's a coastal guy.
Is it?
So anything Cape Town.
Oh, Stormers, Sharks.
That
man,
kind of
a
vibe.
Change of scenery, my boy.
You
Bring him
think so?
to Pretoria.
There's not enough air here for a rugby player.
Is that so? If you say so.
So SA Rugby came out last week. Mark Alexandra, the president, he said he's seen the reports and he's seeing there's the speculation that SA Rugby is going to help buy Siya Kolisi out of his contract in France, and he said absolutely not happening from his end. If it is happening, it's probably a Sharks deal. We do know that there's a private entity that's bought out the Sharks, and they do have the financial muscle to compete with the European currency. So it could happen. I think SA Rugby is fully behind having their captain play his rugby in the country. We all know what an influential figure Siya Kolisi is. We do know what kind of a marketing tool he is as well.
Massive marketing tool.
He's a big brand ambassador for the country, and not only for rugby, but just for the rugby and the country itself. So it will be massive if we are able to get Siya Kolisi back in the country. It makes it easier for the Springbok coaches to be able to monitor him. It's easier for the Springbok coaches to speak to the local franchises in terms of how do you use them, how do you keep them fresh. I mean, there's still another 4 more years before the next Rugby World Cup. So I think the strategy here is to keep all your older guys a bit more fresh and let the younger guys do all the running and the hitting and all of that, and then slowly reintegrate the older guys when we lead up to the crunch time come Rugby World Cup 2027 in Australia. So I'm hoping that the deal does come through. I mean, especially after that president from Racing said Siya is a bit overweight. He's had too much croissants and wine. And cheese
that was so
all
disrespectful.
In France. So I think Siya will be looked after in South Africa
Most
with
certainly.
this pop and
Umngosho. That's it.
And all the niceties and all the place
And the
before a
families
rugby
here.
and the families here. So I think, it would be great to have Siya, but I mean, it is the professional area, so we'll have to wait and see what the people who make the decisions say.
You spoke about the 2027 Rugby World Cup being hosted in Australia. We know that Rassie Erasmus has named a squad that will be playing in Brisbane this weekend, the start of the Rugby Championship. I want to talk about some of the key changes that we saw in that squad. And we spoke about it 2 weeks ago. We spoke about one of your favorite players at the moment, Sacha Ngomezu, right? My argument was that Mani Lebok must be put to the side. I respect the fact that he plays great, fast-running rugby. We know that Tony Brown, the attack coach for the Springboks, wants that style of rugby. But I said, Khotso, we need someone who can slot them away off the kicking tee. Sacha Ngomezu is starting in the number 10 jersey. Your thoughts on that? Because I feel like I called it.
No, you did. But also, we must also, we don't have a crystal ball, but look to the future. And I think that's what the Springbok coaches are doing at the moment. I think in every position, They're trying to create what we call squad depth.
Yeah.
So should anything happen, I mean, at the moment, if you count the number of injuries in specific positions, any team would be limping, but the Springboks are still a solid team to take on the Wallabies, and fly half is no exception. I think when Jordan Hendrickse took the number 10 jersey in our first test this season against Wales, a lot of people were asking the question, why isn't Mani starting, why isn't Sacha starting, why isn't Handre starting? And the simple answer is squad depth. The Springbok selectors already know what they have in Handre Pollard. The Springbok selectors know what they have in Mani. Mani played almost the entire season last season at number 10. But you don't just throw these guys into the deep end. You gradually integrate them into the system. And this is a gradual progression for Sacha Ngomezulu, who played for the SAA team last year against Munster on that end-of-year tour. He's been given opportunities in different positions. The last time he came on as a number 10 against Portugal. Now it's his opportunity now to do what he can do as a starting 10, and starting is a whole new dimension. So it's baby steps for him. The coaching staff know what they're doing. Tony Brown absolutely loves him, and he talks highly and regards this boy as a future number 10. So I don't think this is anything to say Mani Libbok is out of the picture, or Jordan Hendrickse is out of the picture, or Siya Masuku is out of the picture, and all these other...
I'm still waiting for Siya to play for the Springboks.
Other fly halves are out of the picture. So time will always tell, but I think we've got 4 years. Anything can happen in 4 years. People get freak injuries. This is a contact sport. Yeah. People get ill. People decide to stop playing it, or what happens then? You need to have a plan B, C, and D. So 4 years is a long time. This season we have 9 more tests to play. We still have that end of year tour coming. So there's still a lot to be explored in terms of squad depth, and I hope Sacha takes his opportunity with both hands against Australia come Saturday.
You spoke about young players there that are options for the fly half position. Yeah. My question becomes, what happens to Handre Pollard? Because we've spoken about the fact that in terms of the style that he plays, it could be a question mark going forward, especially looking at the 2027 Rugby World Cup. At the moment, he's on the bench as cover for Sacha this weekend. How do you think Rassie could possibly use him going forward? So yes, he's vital in terms of experience, but will he still play a pivotal role throughout the next 4 years?
In yesterday's press conference, Rassie made it clear that everybody has to fight for their position. Nobody's guaranteed a position in the Springbok jersey. It's as simple as all that. Yeah. But you cannot take away experience. And also, the only way to give the younger players experience is to give them experience and playing them. So you have to be clever in terms of how you integrate them, in terms of them to be able to accumulate the number of caps that can make them veterans at that level, but also making sure that you still have the insurance policy of more experienced heads within the team that can help the team grow. So it's a cross-pollination of ideas where the younger guys are feeding off the older guys, and the older guys are also feeding off the energy of the younger guys. And it's a system that's been working so far for the Springboks. It's something that they started working on since 2018 when they came in. Hence we have the term the bomb squad, where your starting 8 is just as good as your finishing 8. So it doesn't matter who starts. Yeah. So that's what they're trying to do, but for the entire team. And I think it's something that's very clever. I think they're trying to give almost every player, at least in the next 2 years, have the youngsters all have plus minus 50 caps. Yeah. And that means you'll have a solid base in terms of your future. So even if some of the older guys fall off, you have experienced players in the system. And I think it also creates an element of rest for the older players. They don't have to carry everything. Rugby is a contact sport. It's a bruising sport.
Physically demanding.
Physically demanding. And the fresher you can keep your players, the better. And I think the rotation of squads is going to be important, particularly at the pace that modern rugby is played at the ferociousness, at the collision points and at the tackle points. The game is really, really not for the faint at heart. And I think teams that have a very big squad, but a squad that has the kind of depth that can interchange are the teams that will dominate. And that's what Russ is trying to create, total dominance for the next 4 years, but slow integration. And we shouldn't look at it as when somebody is not in the system, in a match day 22 or a test series that they totally discarded. There's a bigger picture. And I think we just need to be patient with the process. But by next year, I think that the pictures will start becoming clearer as to how the Springbok future looks like.
You spoke about being patient with the process, trusting Rassie Erasmus. I want to talk about one player that when we were building up to the Rugby Championship after we had played Portugal, every person expected Ivan Roos to be our go-to number 8, right? And for myself, after Dwayne Vermeulen retired, I almost felt like we were looking for the person who's going to be the 8th man in the Springboks starting 15. For this weekend, Handre Pollard is the man that will be starting in that number 8 jersey. Your thoughts on him as an individual and what are you expecting from him this weekend?
Again, I just implore all of us to think bigger than just a one-man replacement. You thinking Dwayne Vermeulen, and if Ivan Roos comes in, and then that's the replacement. So if Ivan Roos is not there, what happens? Does everything fall apart? So I think we need to think a bit more laterally. Ivan Roos has been given opportunities over and over, but a guy like Handre Pollard, has less than 5 caps for the Springboks. So how are you going to give him experience if you don't play him? So you need to give him the opportunity. You need to give him the opportunity to play in high pressure situations, so he can also up his caps and become experienced at that level, because that level is a whole new level. There's guys like Cameron Hanakom who's injured. He's a Bulls player. He's one who can also come in. Pepsi Buthelezi, number 8 for the Sharks, played number 6 for the Springboks. So the Springboks are consistently, trying new things out. BJ Dixon can also, fulfill that number 8 role. We saw Kwagga Smith playing against Ireland, being tested as a number 8 starter. This week he comes in as part of the loose trio that will give impact in the second half. So I think we should look bigger than an individual player. We should look at what are we trying to achieve.
Look at the system.
Or what is the system trying to achieve in terms of giving an Handre Pollard, for instance, a start ahead of a Ivan Roos. But we also found out last week that Ivan Roos was carrying an injury, and he'll be going under the knife, and that surgery will actually keep him out throughout the entire year. He will also not be part of the end of year tour. So we'll only see him back on the park next year. It's not worth taking the risk. But nonetheless, even if he wasn't injured, I don't think he would have been picked for this outgoing tour against Australia, because of that very reason, squad depth.
Let's move on to the rule book, an opportunity for you and I to talk about some of the rules of the game and get to understand some of the basics a little bit better. So today we're not talking necessarily about the basics of rugby. We're talking about a rule change that will be starting on Saturday with the start of the Rugby Championship. And a lot of South Africans would remember what happened against Portugal in Bloemfontein. 2 minutes into the game, Andre Esterhuizen gets a red card, and throughout the entirety of the game, we play with 14 players. Apparently, that would change. So, Khotso, can you please explain the new red card rule to us that will be starting on Saturday?
Okay, I think just for clarity, the new rules are only applicable for the Rugby Championship. So there are trial rules that are being used for the Rugby Championship, and if they are successful, then World Rugby will adopt them, at a higher level.
Okay.
But if there's certain rules that they do like or don't like, they will take those and drop others and so forth. Just a
to
disclaimer.
clarify that.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to the red card situation, the degree of the red card will matter. So if it's deemed as, foul play, dangerous, and, didn't seem somewhat remorseful, then the red card will stick for the entire game. But if it's a professional foul or for something like 2 yellow cards, then after 20 minutes, then a new player can come on, but not the player that got sent off.
Okay. So for example, to use the Andre Esterhuizen situation,
yeah.
Because initially that was a yellow card, he was then...
no, his was a high degree of danger.
So in that situation, it would be 14 players throughout the whole
14
game.
14 players,
okay.
yeah. But if you look at maybe a Curtly Arendse, if he knocked on the ball deliberately and he got a yellow card, and then he gets another yellow card for something silly, then somebody else can come back on. Yeah.
Okay. And that is to protect the integrity of the game.
Of the game, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I heard other guys on other podcasts talking about if you've paid for a Jay-Z ticket and Jay-Z all of a sudden is not there, you don't get your money's worth.
Agreed.
And others are saying, if I pay to come watch certain people play 15 versus 15, then I expect to see 15 versus 15. But, we cannot tolerate, foul play and degrees of danger, because you still need to sell the sport. And if the sport is not appealing and you let people get away with murder, literally, then you won't get new entrants, you won't get money into the sport won't grow. So I think, let's take the dirt element out of the sport. But if it's something that's a professional foul, something, then let's get the other Oaks to come play, have 15 against 15, make it a spectacle.
Nice. Brisbane is the place to be this weekend for the for the Springboks.
Yeah.
They're taking on the Wallabies.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts on this game and give us a score prediction. What are we expecting? Because the Springboks have struggled a little bit when they have to play in Brisbane.
Yeah. No, the Springboks just generally in Australia have struggled since 2003, since the 2003 World Cup. And I think in Brisbane in particular, at the Suncorp Stadium, they've won once in 13 matches since 1993. Sure. So it's a stat that really want to rectify. This morning in the morning press conference, Kobus Reinach was talking about how he made his debut against Australia 10 years ago, and it was a winning start in Cape Town, and he wants to bring that energy now.
Nice.
As somebody who's a senior statesman in the team now. He's not as young, but he also spoke profoundly about how the Springboks never took the Australian match seriously, because it was either before an All Blacks match, and they already have their eye on the All Blacks, or it was after a big win against the All Blacks, and they thought it's just a walk
another
over.
game.
But when they look at the stats, it's a bit embarrassing. And when you rattle off some of the guys who played in those matches,
I've seen that long list.
Have you seen that long list?
It's a very long list. And those are some of the big names that have come from
best players South
African rugby.
Yeah, so like really good South African sides have lost to really bad Australian teams. So this time around, I think South Africa won the not the Tri-Nations, showing my age, the Rugby Championship in 2019. And I think it's something they'd want to win again, and they want to show their dominance. I mean, we are back-to-back world champions.
Yes, sir.
We want to win the Rugby Championship. We want to win all our tests at the end of the year. We want to break every record that's available and go on and do a three-peat and win the third Rugby World Cup, and then see what happens after that.
You didn't give me a scoreline though.
You want the scoreline?
Yes,
I think
sir.
The Springboks 45-12.
45-12.
Yeah, it's a fast track. It's dry, it's a hard surface, it's an afternoon kickoff at 3 o'clock.
Morning in South Africa, by the way.
Yeah, 6:30 in the morning in South Africa. It's South Africa needs to prove something. When I look at the team that we've picked, it's a very fast team. Marco van Staden, Yaku, Kwagga Smith coming off the bench, Ben Jason, Dixon. We have a really fast team. Number 9, Kobus Reinach, one of the fastest players on the team. You have the Shark scrum off, what's his name again? Williams, Grant Williams.
Yeah.
Grant Williams also coming off the bench. You have a Sacha at number 10 who can pull the strings. You have some explosive wings, great finishes. Vililo Roos back to help with game playing, with his left foot at the back. And I just feel like we're going to have this, massive running game in this game. Just by looking at the side that's been picked, a very light but very quick team. And I think it's going to be a high-scoring, physical encounter, and I don't think Australia will be able to keep up.
You spoke about fast-running rugby.
Yeah.
Before we leave, I quickly want to touch on women's rugby.
Yeah.
We will be seeing the final for the Women's Premier Division being hosted at Loftus.
Yeah.
It will be the Bulls Daisies taking on the Western Province women's team. Your thoughts on that particular encounter? Who do you think is going to take it? Because we know that the Highveld is known for its fast-running rugby.
Yeah, no, it's the two best teams in the league. I think we in for a good game. We know the systems that Western Province play with. They're always keen to throw it around. The question is, will they be able to do it for an entire 80 minutes at altitude? As you walk out onto Loftus, it tells you that altitude matters. So hopefully the Western Province ladies will be able to keep up. Great initiative by the Bulls. We do know that the Currie Cup side, the men's team, will be taking on the Griffins.
Yes, sir.
And they'll be the curtain raisers to the ladies.
The guys will be the curtain raisers.
It's Women's Month.
Yes, sir.
Respect. Slap some respect on the ladies. Women's Month, Women's Day should be every day. I mean, women, most of us, have been brought up by our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts. And let's give them the respect that they deserve. If you're in and around anyway, let's go support.
Let's fill up Loftus.
Let's fill up Loftus. Buy a ticket. Women's rugby is on the up and up in South Africa. We saw the women's sevens, punching above their weight at the Olympics. And this is the only way that the women's game is going to grow, if we give it the type of mileage that it deserves and support, and hopefully corporate will follow suit. And we do know that the Bulls Daisies, they've been the trendsetters, giving their women the first full-time contracts. And hopefully the other provinces will also follow suit. So let's go support and watch some good rugby.
Most certainly. Khotso, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you at Loftus on Saturday.
I'll see you at Loftus.
Fantastic. Hopefully we see you at Loftus. But in terms of the Springbok conversation, I would love for you to comment down below. Let me know, what do you think is going to happen in Brisbane? You heard Khotso talk about it. They've won one game in the last 13 matches in Brisbane. Hopefully, Siya Kolisi and the boys can change that narrative. But also with regards to the Bulls Daisies, what do you think is going to happen at Loftus? Can the Western Province do it, or can the Bulls Daisies get the job done? I'd love to get your thoughts. And as always, this is Rugga United. We'll see you next week.
I saw a cherry, and it was red.